Om Shanti, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Monday experience sharing sessions. Every Monday, we invite special yogi who have been practicing this Raj Yoga meditation for a long period of time. Today, we have with us Brother Augusto. So, one of the main qualities, if you actually see this, we have 4 subjects: Gyan, Yoga, Dharana, Seva, right? And one of the main practices Baba tells us is, of course, consider yourself to be a soul, and remember, Baba is one of the main practice. But Baba also says to practice our 5 forms, right? And experiencing our own ancient memories, right? Especially with the practice of remembrance. Remembrance is not like a chant. It is not like a mantra that we keep repeating in our head or in our mind. So, but it is remembering our ancient memories. You go into deep soul conscious state and then invoke it. But once we invoke all of our 5 forms, which is the 5 different phases that we go through the 5 ages, literally, right? So we literally spin the cycle, we invoke our 5 forms, and then we embody it. And in the confluence age, the test papers will come to how much we are in touch with our powerful 5 stages. And so, as you know, that it is not an easy thing to remember our forms, but also to invoke that energy and then bring that spiritual power into an action. And today we have with us Brother Augusto. So he has been with Baba for decades together, and then he lives in a center, and then he's very active in the youth service. He's active in interfaith service. So he's instrumental in taking care of Latin America youth wing altogether. And he's one of my close friends and powerful yogi. And without any further ado, I invite Brother Augusto to the podium. Welcome, brother.
Hi, Om Shanti. Very nice to be with you. Thanks, Baba lot, for the invitation of Anubhuti Center, and particularly from Harsha, who is a very good old friend. So very lovely to be here with you, and hope that this sharing can contribute a little bit with all of our efforts. So I'm going to show you some presentation, and then we are going to develop the theme using this presentation, because it's better that the 5 forms, Bob and the 5 forms are more seen than myself. So I came to Gia when I was 19 years old, and I have been living in the space of Baba for 16 years. So when I came, I was making university, was studying advertisement, and some things that I love to do in this Brahmin life are going to Madhubam, of course, like all of us. So when I was studying, I did not have money to go to Madhubam, and so my center coordinator at that time, he asked me, okay, your father is paying your university, but who will pay your ticket to Madhubam? And I said, oh, I don't think he should do it. So I began to look for a job, and I have been working in Petrobras distribution, which is one of the companies within the holding Petrobras, for 16 years. And so during this time, I could go to Madhubam once a year. So I've been there 16 times. And 2 years ago, a bit less than 2 years ago, I was disengaged from the company because it became private. That branch of Petrobras became private. And so I am now, in this very moment, living from my financial reserves and preparing myself to launch a YouTube channel about well-being and healthy. So let's see what's in the drama. Let's see what Baba wants for us. So this theme of the five forms is quite significant, and I'm definitely going to share a little bit about my experiences, about the efforts that I do based on that. And in yesterday's Murli, Baba spoke that you are not politicians in a chair, you are kings who have a self-sovereignty. So this theme of the five forms is deeply connected with the self-sovereignty. And Baba gives us, as a very first gift when we come to him, the divine intellect. And by developing a divine intellect, we begin to realize that faith, and Baba explains this very clearly to us, that faith is not a question of belief, but faith is a question of understanding. And once it's San Francisco who is organizing this program, I think it's very nice to remind from one verse of the prayer of San Francisco, who says that when there is doubt, let me take the faith. And this is very much connected with what Baba says, because we usually think about faith as belief, but even in the Christianism, as we can see from this verse of the prayer, the real meaning of faith is really understanding. And it's very important in Brahmin life, as you know, that we make our intellect more and more divine. And for this, Baba gives us many methods to keep our intellect busy. So the five forms is a very good way of making our intellect working in such a way that we keep our minds busy with Baba's energy, instead of keeping our minds busy with the things that we usually talk about with the people from the outside world, who speak all the time about COVID, about the war between Russia and Ukraine, and many times we Brahmins also get very much engaged in this type of conversation. But the question is that the more we think about everything that is leading the road to the destruction, more we are contributing with that energy as well. While when we are keeping our intellects working, keeping our minds busy with Baba's energy, Baba's knowledge, Baba's remembrance, the more we are contributing to the build of a new world. And so five forms is definitely a wonder way to divinize our intellects and make ourselves busy in this task of the Golden Age establishment. So the five forms, Baba has spoken about this many times. And in one of the last Murlis that he gave coming here physically to our world, which was in the 2nd of February 2020, this was the last time that he spoke about the five forms, and he reminded us about it. So we are going to explore this, and as I usually hear about the family in the Pacific of the US, I always see that it's a very friendly family. So I would not like to have this meeting as a class, but as a family meeting, obviously. So you are free to contribute in the chat box, or if you want to speak something, you are very much free to contribute with your ideas as well. So this can be a conversation, a good dialogue for all of us. And I hope that this meeting can be an inspiration for all of us be part of the rosary of 16,108. And Baba has already spoken that this rosary has a great number of double foreigners, so it's open to all of us. So in order to introduce this theme of the five forms, I'd like to know from you, you can put in your answers in the chat box, who makes the five forms 8 times a day for 5 minutes each, like Baba has guided us to do. It would be very nice to know this from you. And my experience with the five forms is that when I first heard about them, I really had the realization once I began to practice it that this would be the drill that could make me really a good yogi. And so I've been practicing this, keeping this aim of having it 8 times a day. And I've been done this for some time, and then after a while I stopped doing this. So I made this practice and I stopped doing at least twice. And recently I had a realization that no, I have to practice the five forms really according to the aim that Baba gave me. And the perception that I have very clearly is that if I don't do this exercise, that it's going to be the one who is leading me to become a good yogi. It means that I'm self-boycotting. I'm making a self-boycott. And so there is a couple of months that I came back to do this exercise, and it's really giving me very much self-respect and increasing a lot Baba's remembrance. So I'd like to share a little bit about these experiences I've been having. No one has put in the chat box your answers. You don't need to be no problem if you don't do it. No problem. We are in a family meeting, so no problem if you say that you don't do, and if you do, it's very good to have good experiences to get from you as well. So one of the things that when the practice of the five forms, when Baba spoke about this, there was a question, even coming from many seniors in our yagya, is that should we practice the five forms or should we remember Baba? because it seems that when we are thinking about ourselves, even in the self-respect that Baba gives us, we are not remembering Baba. And in my perception, very very clearly about this is that the self-respect that the five forms bring to me, they make me worthy of receiving Baba's love, because we are in Christian country, and it's very much strong in our cultural background, the question of not being worthy of receiving God's love. And this belief may not be very very visible in our direct thoughts, but there are many hidden thoughts that we create that show that we still have very much of this blockage brought by our culture. So Harsha said that yes, he's doing five forms, very nice. Uh, and I could give you at least two examples. There is a list of examples that I could give about this belief that we are not worthy of receiving God's love, even though we are Brahmins and we listen to the Murli every day, we make our efforts. But for example, it's quite subtle thing when we punish ourselves, for example, for any mistakes we do, or for our wandering minds. This is subtly a form of thinking in ourselves as not being worthy to receive God's love. And this is, like Baba says, it's mamat. It's the dictates of our own minds. But also the dictates of the minds of others, paramount, they are also present when we identify ourselves, for example, with the opinion of others. So when we are stuck thinking about what others think about us, this is also very subtly a form of thinking in ourselves as not being worthy to receive God's love. And so the practice of the five forms is very useful to keep Baba's energy flowing within myself in such a way that I can work more on my intellect and divinize it, make my intellect more divine. And Baba gives us different methods to make our intellects busy working with his energy. He gives us the remembrance, he gives us the churning, he gives us the possibility to give. And when we practice the five forms, we can not only remember Baba, we can also churn about our self-respect throughout the cycle, and we can also be bestowers, we can also be givers. So it's a practice that helps very much in our remembrance of Baba. And there are many different forms that we can practice the five forms. It's because it's very important to create newness in our journey. And when we think about the five forms, it may sound something repetitive, but in the reality, there is such a vast possibilities of things we can work on ourselves based on the five forms, that we can always have newness. The newness is very important for our efforts naturally. So we can use the five forms, for example, thinking about what's Baba's vision about me in each one of the 5 forms. So how does Baba see me as a saligram, as a devta, as a puja? Uh, or we can also think about the different aspects of purity. How is my purity when I am a point of light there in Parandan? How is my purity when I am in the golden age? How is my purity when I am in my image, worship worthy image? We can also practice the 5 forms, working on the different qualities that each one of them inspire us. So we can very naturally think about, for example, being in Parandan inspires me with peace, being in the golden age inspires me with happiness, being with Baba in the Sangam Yuga in the conference age inspires me love. So which qualities, which one of the 5 forms inspired to me? And between many other possibilities, we could work on them, but we can ask ourselves, what's my intoxication about being an angel? What's my intoxication about being a deity? So there are many different possibilities that we can work on the 5 forms, so that we can be always creating newness in our journey. And before we go into the exploring each one of the 5 forms, I will ask Harsha to show you a video. There are many different videos you can find in the YouTube when you search for the 5 forms. And I'm even putting here a term that we can use. I've just put in the chat box. It's the Hindi term that we can search for the 5 forms in the YouTube. And you will find many very good videos, but this one in particular is my favorite video about the 5 forms, and I think you will see why I think that.
So Kathy is asking, what are the 5 forms? And I think you'll get some feel of it as we go through this video. So Kathy, what it is just to give a little background about what forms we are talking about, is as a soul goes through the journey of space and time, it goes through like today, right? Today we spend the life, and on all that happened today, you have the experience registered within your consciousness, right? And tomorrow, if you want to remember something, just imagine you dropped your keys somewhere. And if you want to remember, so you go back to that recording which is registered in your consciousness to retrieve your keys back, right? Similarly, you extend the time from 1 day to 1 week to 1 month to 1 year to 1 decade, 1 lifetime to 84 lifetimes, right? So what happens as we go through the journey is our memory becomes very short-term memory, and then we forget who we are. We are these deities, we are these angels, we are these divine beings. So there are 5 major phases the soul goes through. One is the soul, which is the eternal nature of a being. And then the second one is original nature of the soul, is this pure, peaceful, loveful, blissful, divine self, right? And then the third stage is like once it goes into the transition period of soul consciousness to body consciousness, there is your powerful presence will become a support for others, and that is what we call worship worthy form. And then the fourth form is more like as you realize that, oh, look, I am the soul, I am child of God. And then there is this whole new awakening that starts, invokes within us, what we call a Brahmin form, which is a knowledgeful form. And then as we practice that, we become very subtle, very gentle, not only in our minds, not only with our feelings, but with our own presence, with our own energy body. And then we raise into that subtle angelic sense of self. And then we return back home. These are the 5 forms, right? Soul, deity form, worship-worthy form, the awakened Brahmin form, and the angelic form, the subtle angelic form, knowledgeful Brahmin form, the powerful, empowering form as a worship-worthy, as a deity full of virtues and powers, and as an original form, which is the soul. Yeah, so hope I answered your question. And let's quickly check in what Baba got to say about that to practice. So this is the drill Baba himself conducted to India.
शांति ही शांति है, प्रकाश पुंज का ये भंडार, हम आत्माएं यही पे रहते, यही हमारा है संसार। परम धाम से लेके आओ, देवता रूप याद करो।
Okay, love this video. I usually practice very much using it. So I haven't seen the question here in the chat box. I don't think that I have received it. It's the 5 forms, as you have just seen in the video, begins with this form in the center of the image, which is uh, our saligram form. It's the form of the soul, the point of light in Parandam, in the soul road. And then when we go to the second phase, the second form, which is the deity form, when we first come to our physical world in the golden age. And then the third form, so the deity form you are seeing at the top in the left side, and then at the top in the right side, our third form, which is the puja form, the worship worthy form, when we go into the copper age, but our memorials, the memorial of our purity, of all our qualities are still remembered by the devotees. And then the fourth form is the Brahmin form, so it's in the left side uh, at the bottom of the image. When we meet Baba and become conscious of all of our forms. And then the last one is the angel form in the bottom at the right side, when we reach our stage of completion and become Farishta, become angels. So we are now going into all of this, exploring each one of these forms, and obviously we are going to make some different experiments for each one of them. And please feel free to send your messages here in the chat box for all of us, and so I can also see them. So our very first form is the form of a Jyoti Bindu, of a Saligram. I'm seeing here by your names, but that most of you come from an Indian background. So I'm using the Hindi terms, and I don't speak Hindi. I'm just using the terms that I came to know from Baba. So please, if I tell you something that needs any correction about these terms, about these Hindi terms, please let me know. So we begin our journey throughout the cycle, or even before going into the cycle, in the Saligram form, in the Jyoti Bindu form. Saligram, as you know, is our form of a point of light there in Parandam. And Jyoti Bindu, Jyoti is light and Bindu is point. So Baba has taken some time to reveal the real form of the soul. In the beginning, the very beginning, he used to say that the soul has a form of a thumb, an oval shaped form, which was more fitable to the gross intellect of the souls who were coming in the beginning of our yagya, of our gatherings. And so he took quite some time to show that the real form of the soul is the form of a point of light, because once the incorporeal needs to come to give the knowledge in a language that we are able to understand, considering that we are body conscious, we are attached by our bodies, about the perception of our bodies. So the incorporeal needs to use corporeal concepts in order for us to understand. And so in this aspect, Brahma Baba, when he chose an experienced chariot to speak through, Brahma Baba works like a translator. It's a kind of translator in which his physical experience is used to express the metaphysical concepts that God has to bring to us. And that's why he took some time to reveal the form of the soul as such a small and tiny point of light, which is quite subtle and quite difficult for gross intellects to understand. And so Baba's knowledge was being refined throughout the time in such a way that now we can introduce the form of the soul as a point of light directly to the people. And so let's work a little bit about this concept of point and of light, of Jyoti Bindu. So the concept of point, so why does Baba use this form of a point of light to talk about the form of the soul, about how the soul really is? Because there are many different aspects that we can understand physically to go into the spiritual meaning of it. Like, for example, the aspect of the point. Why does Baba use this form of point to explain us how the soul really is? In mathematics, it's said that the point has no volume, no area, no length, and no similar dimensions. So the point is something that is just in a very one place. When you have a pencil, for example, when you put a point in a paper, it's very small, it's very tiny, and it's just there, that point. But if you put that point in a microscope, you will see it very extended, very large, and it's as if it was not a point, but it's as if it was a circle when you put in the microscope, when you make it much bigger. So imagine the soul, which is a metaphysical being very much smaller and tinier than that small point that you put in a paper. So the soul is not something that goes from one place to another. So it has no area, like the mathematics says about the points. So it's just a very tiny, very infinitesimal point of divine light. So when we understand the point in this way, it makes us much easier to understand how the soul really is and to explore soul consciousness in this way. And the concept of light is also very interesting in the physics, because it's said there that when the light propagates in space, it behaves like a wave. But when it falls on a surface, it behaves like a particle. And there was a very long-term discussion about the light in the physics, if the light is a particle or a wave. And then there is the classical moment when Albert Einstein went into a room to give the answer about which one of these physical visions were correct. And as you know, Einstein was very silent, and he just entered the room, and he wrote an R crossed, and then put an end. So, and then he left the room. So he just wanted to say that the light is both, is a particle and a wave. So we can understand very much about soul consciousness working on this concept of light, that I am a very tiny point, like a particle, and I also behave myself as a wave. I spread my waves, the waves of my purity, of my happiness, of my love. And so there are no limits to propagate my pure energy. And so these are just a few ideas about the form of the saligram. And we can make an experiment now, very short experience, so that we can experience a little bit about this. And you can obviously put your questions or comments here in the chat box if this is not so clear. So let's now make a short meditation exercise in which we withdraw from all the outside world, and we visualize behind my eyes, in the center of my forehead, a very tiny shiny point of divine light. Let me look at myself in this point, in this tiny star. Let me look at myself as being smaller. As much as I go into myself, I realize that this point of light is smaller, it's tinier, it's infinitesimal. Till I reach the point of not being able to see it. But within this tiny point of light, there is my whole history, there is my whole potential, there are my whole qualities. Everything is there. Because I am unlimited, I am very, very powerful. It's amazing. It's such a tiny point, such a powerful light, such a powerful potential. Om Shanti. So now we come from Parandam. We enter into this physical world in the very first moment of our history, which Baba describes as the golden age, heaven, paradise. So what's really heaven? We usually think about heaven as a place where we have a very light, happy environment. But what Baba teaches us is that heaven begins within all of us. So what we see externally, and all of this beautiful background you see in your screen, representing the golden age, is in reality just an externalization. It's the materialization of our pure thoughts, of our pure words, and of our pure actions. So heaven, in fact, begins within all of us. And when I am aware of my completion, I realize that I am here, in fact, to give. This is my real purpose, to be here on this earth. I am here to give. And the more I give, the more I am a master of my subtle and physical organs, the more I am able to control my five sense organs and my subtle organs as well, my mind, intellect, and sanskars, the more I am able to give and bestow all of this beauty that I have within myself. And so the experience of external happiness, of contentment, of natural contentment that we experience in the golden age is just a result of this giving. It's just a return that the matter and the nature give to us for our pure donation. And so, like Baba was saying in yesterday's Murli, we have a right to self-sovereignty now, and according to this, we become world sovereigns for many births. And so we are experiencing that happiness and that contentment because we are self-sovereign. And in this way, we are also masters of the whole world, of the whole matter, because we are serving the matter, and then the matter is giving back to us what it is receiving from us. And that's why we are in heaven, in paradise. So let's now make another experiment. And the theme of this experience could not be different, considering that we are about to go into our international project of the Golden Drops. So as you see at the ending of each video in the Murli experiments, we speak about consciously creating a golden road. So this is the theme of our experience just now about the form of Devita, which, as your Hindi speakers know, also means not only deity, but also givers, bestowers. So let's now go into ourselves and see ourselves as if we were painters. And with my intellect, I can choose the thoughts I'm going to paint in my mind. Thoughts of beauty, thoughts of purity, thoughts of love. I see this beauty in my mind. I can also see this beauty surrounding me, expressing outside of me. Once I am the master of my body, so I serve my body and the whole matter surrounding me. And in this way, I am painting a wonderful picture, not only within myself, but in the whole outside world. And everything that surrounds me physically is a result of this conscious creation I'm doing in my mind. So I see these expressed in the beauty of the nature, in the birds, in the peacocks, in the music, in the gold that is all around me. The golden palaces, the golden buildings, all of this is just a reflection of my pure creation now. Shanti. Now keep on spinning the cycle. We move to the copper age, so half the cycle has already gone. And when we reach the copper age, the fact is that the soul becomes impure, okay? But there is still something that is worth of being remembered. And it's, I just love this fact that even when we are in an impure moment, like in the Copper Age, Baba is still able to show us something very pure, something to increase our self-respect, even in this impure moment, which is our puja form, which is our worship-worthy form. In the principle of this worship-worthy form, when we build images for our images of deities, or even what we are doing in this very moment in the confluence age, like you are seeing in the image of the temple of Diwara, which is a temple in Monte Abu, very close to Madhuban, which is our memorial of us as yogis creating a new world with Baba. And the principle of this worship-worthy form is that my purity is eternal. My purity is so great the purity that Baba is creating within me in this very moment in the confluence age has such an impact that is eternally worthy of being remembered. So thousands of years later, at least 2,500 years later, or even more than this, throughout the whole cycle, our images, the remembrance of our purity that is created here in the confluence age and that remains throughout the first half of the cycle in the golden and silver ages, they are still worthy of being remembered. And so when we become devotees, we build images to remember this, even though we don't remember our previous births, and we know that we don't. But the impact of the spirit created by Baba now is such that thousands of years later, we are able to remember this because this is recorded in the core of the soul. So it's very beautiful to think about the bhavna, the love of the bhagats, of the devotees. This is the meaning bhavna, the devotional love, and bhagatis, the devotees. And I very love to experience what would be the bhavana of my devotees worshipping my image, worshipping the memorial of my purity. And this bhavana is in the reality a reflection of the bhavana that we are creating in this very moment for Baba. So the more love I have for Baba, for making Baba service, for remembering Baba, the more love that my devotees are going to have when I am worshipped in the copper age. And when we usually talk about this puja form from the images of the temples, but we can make it broader now, because everything that the soul makes in the search for God in the copper and iron ages, or everything that the soul does in the copper and iron ages, are consciously or unconsciously a way of searching for God. And once we are godly instruments now in the confluence age, so it's the memorial of what God is creating now in the confluence age and what we are helping Him to do in this very moment. So not only the temples are our memorials of the confluence age, but also all the stories of wisdom related in different cultures, as well as the stories of heroes who are shown in allegoric stories. So whether the character has a religious purpose or has an entertaining purpose, all of this is our memorial, is the memorial of what we are creating here now with Baba in the confluence age. So when you think about the superheroes, for example, would Superman be our memorial? Would the Wonder Woman be our memorial? What do you think? Has anyone ever thought that the Superman or the Wonder Woman, for example, could be our memorials? What do you think? So let's make now an experiment about the eternity of my purity. I know that This is a quite deep aspect of Baba's knowledge, so please let me know if you are following everything that I'm sharing with you. So let's now make an experiment about the eternity of my purity. Let's meditate about the power of the unlimited purity that Baba is giving to me now. Let me reflect about the power of my peace, of the peace that Baba is creating in me now. Baba's love is so powerful, so great. It's making such a powerful transformation within me. This wonderful transformation is getting recorded within my heart, within the core of the soul, in such a way that thousands of years later, this purity is going to be remembered. Thousands of years later, the impact of everything that Baba is giving to me is going to be remembered. This is such a wonder. It's Baba's wonder, and it's also my wonder. So let me enjoy this wonder now and always. Om Shanti. So now half the cycle, the other half of the cycle has passed, and we meet Baba in the conference age. Yesterday's Murli Baba spoke that you know that at this time you are the children of God. You also know the occupation of God. This is pure pride. So we have this pure pride of being godly children and godly students. So the Brahmin form is different from what we could call a BK form. I don't know if you have this clear difference between what's a Brahmin and what's a BK, a Brahma Kumar, a Brahma Kumari. And we can see this in the context of the Yagya. The Yagya, the gathering that Shiv Baba created through Brahma Baba, and in the Brahma Kumaris, which is the institution that unites all of us. So the Yagya is not only a gathering, but the whole energy of God acting for the creation of the new consciousness, the sustenance of the new world, and the destruction of the old world. So this is the Yagya. It its godly energy to create, sustain, and destroy. And the Brahma Kumaris is the institution that was created to enable the yagya, to enable godly energy to reach the whole world. Because we are human beings, very institutionalized, so we need an institution to accept. Because if it was just a group of people in a spiritual gathering, this would not be accepted worldwide. And so being a brahmin, as Baba says, it means to be a protector of the yagya, someone who feeds the energy of God's creation, sustenance, and destruction of the negativities. The creation of the new world, sustenance, and destruction of the negativities. And so Baba speaks about the Brahmin form, not the BK form. So it's very much important to have this clarity about the difference, that we are Brahmins before being BKs. And the subtle energy of our thoughts is contributing with the yagya, with godly energy to these three acts of God to be performed. And so it's only in this very moment in the confluence stage that we are conscious about all the other four forms. And we understand that the form of a saligram, of a devta, of a puja, and of a farishta, which we're going to talk later, are different aspects of the purity that Baba is creating for us in this very moment in the confluence stage. And only now we are conscious of all the other four forms. Not in any other moment of the cycle we have this consciousness. And it's very important that when I think about each one of the forms, I have this determined thought that I am this. I am really all of this. So if God chose me to be part of his task to create, sustain, and transform, so I need to realize that as a Brahmin, I am really worthy to be his instrument. So the more I practice that I am a Brahmin and that I am all the other four forms, more I accept that Baba is really right to have chosen me, because God would not make a mistake, so he was very much right to choose me, definitely. And the more I imbibe this, the more I imbibe the purity and the power of each one of the forms, and the more naturally I become all of this. So let's now make an experiment about the praise of our fortune as being Brahmins. When I remember Baba, when I travel throughout the cycle, I remember of the wonder of me, of the wonder that Baba is creating within me. Waha, Baba, it's your wonder. You are creating my fortune for the whole eternity. Waha, Baba. Waha, my fortune. I am your instrument. And I am very happy to have been chosen by you. Happy to be with you. And I am happy to be your instrument to create a new world, to sustain the qualities throughout the cycle, to transform all the old world with you. So let me keep this consciousness of being godly instrument, and after coming back from this experience. Om Shanti. Now we finally reach our last form, the Harsha form, the angel form. And in today's blessing, Baba said that may you be merciful like the Father and serve with your mind at a fast speed. And this just reflects what is to be an angel about. So this word farishta, going to the original meaning, I heard from a senior who is quite fluent in Hindi, and you can also add something if you know. That the Hindi meaning of Farishta is the one who is complete in his solitude. So the more I remain engaged in the experience of silence, in the quiet of my silence, the more I am able to experience my purity and my completion, my perfection within myself. And the more I practice this, more I am able to bring this to my daily life. And it's also interesting to reflect about the meaning of this word angel. In Greek, the word angelos, it's the origin of angel. It means messenger. So Baba's knowledge is light, as he says, and so Baba's message is to spread his light. And we don't spread his light and his message, therefore, only through our words, giving knowledge. But we also express his message and his light through our pure thoughts. And so to be an angel, to be a farishta, and make this subtle service of serving the whole world is something that all of us can do, not only while speaking, but all the time. We can do this in our minds. And this is very important to accumulate this energy in such a way that we can be able to give support to the souls who are not able to go beyond all the destructive scenes that they are going to see, while we have been gone beyond the physical limits, beyond the physical consciousness, the body consciousness. we need to give them the support of our energy, the support of our good wishes, the support of our pure thoughts. And so this is the task that we need to do in the very close moments who are about to come for the completion of the cycle. So we are now going to make an experiment about this, about giving sakash, about giving a current of power to the souls in the final moments of the cycle. So let's go within ourselves with the silent mind, quiet mind. Directing my thoughts through my divine intellect. Remember that I am a pure soul, and I'm going beyond the limits of the body. I am able to go beyond the limits of my physical senses. And in this way, I am able to spread God's light, embracing my whole body with this light, embracing the whole world with this light. No matter what's happening outside, I can remain very calm, very stable, and I'm able to give godly light to the whole world, to help the souls in the process of renewal that the world is passing in this very moment. Shanti. Now, if you would like to make any comment, questions, I'm here to dialogue with you. If Harsha also wants to say something, it would be very nice to have a final meditation in which we can go through these 5 forms in 5 minutes. So
I think I don't think we have any comments or questions. Let me just double check. If anyone have any questions or comments, feel free to unmute yourself and share.
just have Akta's comment about recording the session.
Perla?
Shanti, I'm Perla, and I just want to thank you for the experience of the 5 forms. I learned more about the vocabulary and the definition, and I really enjoy your little presentation. Thank you so much, Shanti.
Shanti, thanks to Baba for you being here and participating.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions, comments? Thank you. So, Augusto Bhai, so would you like to share any of your personal experiences that you had and how you, any moments when you had and how it felt?
Yeah, I could share many experiences regarding the practice of the five forms, but I feel that putting into practice what Baba tells us to do and having this aim of practicing 8 times, 5 minutes each, as Baba asks us to do, this gives very much power. And I really have this daily aim to practice at least 80 times. So I make sometimes in Amrit Vela and meditating before the Murli, and throughout the day I have some moments in which I like to practice. Like, for example, when I'm walking from here to the gym, I'm going to make my physical exercises. So I have a 7 minutes walk, 7-10 minutes walk, and then it's a good time that I can also practice the 5 forms. And in the yoga bhaktis in the evening, anytime. It's a good time to practice, and I feel that's much more important than keeping my schedule busy with Baba's Seva. This is very important, of course, but it's very much important to keep our minds busy, our intellects working in such a way that there are the minimal possible of space for other types of thoughts, like I was mentioning in the very beginning. We think very much about the coronavirus, we think very much about the war, we think very much about about our tasks, about the things that we have to do in our lives, and keeping the intellect working, processing Baba's energy using the 5 forms is really an amazing way to increase Baba's energy within ourselves. So I encourage all of you to practice, and it doesn't matter if it's not perfect. It doesn't matter if the mind wanders. No problem. The important is that we make the efforts, and Baba will definitely give us the return for this. So I encourage all of you to practice your 5 forms throughout the day.
Perfect, thank you. So maybe we can wrap up with a short meditation. We can wrap it up with a short meditation.
Yeah, sure. Let's go into ourselves. Practice remembrance of my eternal form of a point of light. Seeing myself very tiny, infinitesimal, My whole potential is here, this tiny point of light. And as I come into the physical world, I take form of a deity, surrounded by wonderful paradise that's expressing the beauty that I share with my whole surroundings. As the cycle turns, I reach the copper age. Still the memorial of my purity, of my beauty is there. The wonder that I have created, that I am creating with Baba. So the devotees are very happy to worship this wonderful memorial left with Baba. As I keep on spinning the cycle, I reach the Brahmin form, and I see myself in this very moment sitting in my place, remembering Baba, and enjoying the wonder of being aware of my five forms, my purity throughout the cycle. And in this concentration, I become very silent and experience my inner light, how this light propagates to the whole world as an angel who spreads my own qualities to all the world. So even after I go back from this experience, I keep the awareness of my self-respect. Om Shanti.